Okay, this is forward and back. I'm really happy to be here. I went to my first Biosemiotics meeting in 2005, I believe. Yeah, a lot has changed ever since. I was checking my presentation at the time, what was the name and the subject, and I was interested in double-stranded DNA contextual meaning and different configurations of cell, which leads me to provide you with some background about myself. I am a cell biologist by training and choice, but I think I would really define myself as someone who was born possessed by cells, quite literally, because they are in my name, right? And I've been playing along ever since in different ways as a wet science researcher interested in fate, identity, transitions, embryology, many instances of it. Also as a mother, also as a poet and a fiction writer. And I do some work in theoretical biology, code biology. I'm not a biosemiotician, and I'm not a philosopher. So excuse me for that. Okay, so one of the things, maybe some of you have read my abstract, and it can come as a very naive approach, but I believe you have ways in which especially words had evolved. So what I've shown here is like my own way to play with cells really playfully and try to bring them in life. This is just a workout, like the first acception of the word cell when it was observed in a quark death bit in the microscope was a small monastery room. So ever since, I would say that even in science, cell has a stand for different things, for a place, for an origin, for a building block, for an organization, for a system. And my hypothesis is that this all happens by expansion of the semantic landscape, because what is contended by this very simple lips is not a metaphor in the sense, yep. Maybe like this. I can't move. Here, right? Yeah, easy. In the Lacanian sense of mapping from a more concrete domain to a more abstract domain, but perhaps bringing some cognitive sciences, conceptual thinking, and poetic theory into it, and thinking about blending mental operations that unify, combine, and merge patterns to create expressions, and at the same time analyze expressions they encounter to recognize patterns that were combined to produce them. Or representations being ultimately selected to share aspects of the world with others, and metaphors in this context become the creation of a shared domain of attention and experience, very concrete sensible manner. And for Paul Valéry, which is a poet that I translate and study, metaphor itself is the simplest form, marks a grouping of a tâtonnement, a searching, an hesitation between several possible expressions of a thought. The very object of poetry is what does not have only one name. So for all these thinking arenas, metaphor is really a constitutive mechanism. And I always ask myself whether is there a meaning which is not metaphorical. Translators go by saying that every translation is a creation. I tend to think the opposite. Every creation is a translation, right? But I'm no linguist either. So this said, what I had thought about doing was take the closing remark in The Origin of the Species, where Darwin wonders how, whilst the planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms, most beautiful and most wonderful, have been and are being evolved. I believe that he has chosen endless, which is a polysemic word, maybe unknowingly, leaving it open-ended for contributions that came later. But then I realized I had a very pretentious agenda and very fixed one to show you that by starting with 5 meanings that I find to endless and the Merriam-Webster dictionary, which are perpetual, incomputable, manifold, unfinished, and steady, and making a reiteration with this meanings I found, looking for things that are very present in endeavors to make biology go beyond the variation selection paradigm and finding reproducible and predictable, additive, undetermined, and the end of their own formation. I could perhaps convince you that biosemiotics, systems biology, code biology, relational biology are talking the same language, and we have perfectly compatible concepts. But I realized it was pretentious, naive, boring, and that I'm maybe not the right person to do that. So keeping in mind that I will keep my material and methods. So yeah, you may think, oh, it's too stupid to, it's just a rhetorical exercise. She's playing with words, and that's precisely what I'm doing. But rhetorical exercises in their classical acception are exercises people did as repetitive, experimental, pragmatic, consensual, and arbitrary yet constrained practices. And I believe this is a suitable methodology to challenge, probe, and produce the morphogenesis of artifactual beings from organisms, abstract concepts, and works of art alike. I also believe that expanding semantic fields of a given word is a metaphorical activity in the sense I just told you. I bring Victoria Alexander affirmation that things like each other and things near each other help organization where there was none before. And also the fact that analogical dictionaries make relations between words that are mappings of the poetic kind. So, yeah, I will stick to my playing with words. Also, biomedical ontologists, for instance, in life sciences, describe components and functions of organisms, and many ontologists refer to a same domain or same objects. And there is a growing need to integrate, merge, and this happens around the world. And then I also think that maybe what I'm really saying is that a word is a paradoxical being, as is the sign defined by Patrice Meniglier, who's a great reader of Saussure. So what Patrice says is that the sign presents itself as an enigma. And he has this beautiful book called The Enigmatic Life of Signs. In our not being able to draw a conclusive statement about it, it seems to be present and at the same time not present, fixed and static, but at the same time dynamic and mutating, synchronic and diachronic. The signs are formed if by a predeterminate mechanical action, but at the same time they seem to have an infinitely open-ended life of their own. And they are a reality that is simultaneously cognitive and social. So what he says is that there is an ontological problem when people are trying to understand science. And because they come into being by a different mechanism. And as methodology goes, I will put it very simply, but speculative theories are not provisional laws. We will never have laws to study things that cannot ignore history, pragmatics, chance, and what is not there, as many of you have said. The deterministic, positivistic, Cartesian method based on universal, testable, reproducible, experimental analysis deals with very homogeneous settings. So in praise of tentative, contextual, vague, speculative methods for dealing with things that are endlessly brought into being. And I believe this happens from cells to literary composition, art, craft, and scientific concepts. It's complicated. So formation matters for what I want to do. Living objects coming to being. This is a very old story, remounts to Aristotle and my favorite, Goethe, who defined morphogenesis as the laws of transformation according to which nature produces one part to another and achieves the most diversified form through the modification of a single organ, and considered that understanding morphology blurs the distinction between objects of knowledge and the process of knowledge. So the original plan, here are the words. But life happens, and during the gathering, I gathered many new words that I couldn't do without. So I took the very risky pattern to change my presentation yesterday. And some of you, I hope, will recognize your own input to this scheme. But mostly impressed by the warm data lab experience and by stories that change stories. I thought very humbly that maybe I could do something as a workout of formation. And when I thought yesterday about all these new words, they coalesced into something. So I'm proposing a blank page, okay? We are starting. I'm thinking as I go with you. We borrow a page of one of the notebooks of Paul Valéry, and since he's a great one, he thanks us with a phrasal of the blank sheet, which is a beautiful poem we won't have the time to read, right? But it doesn't matter. So what came to mind when I tried to put together all these words was an exhibition I saw in Brazil. And I will read for you because it's important that you get an idea of what was done. So, testing the boundaries of the law, London-based Brazilian artist Ile Sartuzi performed a sleight of hand, temporarily stealing a historical coin from the collection of the British Museum. After more than a year of planning, the artist secretly exchanged a very ancient silver coin minted in Newark during the English Civil War with a fake replica. With the coin under his possession, the artist left room 68, the money section of the museum, and went downstairs to deposit the object in the donation box of the museum. Beyond the provocations of incorporating this figure of the trickster, and this is what I really wanted to incorporate also, the magic is there, is not there, the tricks, thinking about sleight of hand as a form, misdirection as a procedure, and stealing as art, this project raises debates around value, property, and the historical violence of law, among others. So it was nice to hear about score and music. The score is there, a simple gesture, and this list of things, okay? And then let's think about my original words. Endless as in perpetual. Biology wants to deal with this beyond the neo-Darwinian evolutive views, but okay, this remained there. Common ground for agreeing that the perpetuity beyond variation selection paradigms can be phrased in the common ring of the Venn diagram, but this is not what we want to know. Okay, as the sleight of hand goes, what does he do? Not only he produces a replica, but afterwards he prints pictures of the replica and plays with many versions of it and sell this as artwork. So it keeps going, right? If you think about endless as in incomputable, infinity is formalized by different language systems as mathematics, semantics, poetry, visual arts, philosophy, casts a sense of unpredictability out of the reach of our computing tools and algorithms. Darwin's endless forms are wonderful in great measure because they are surprising and unimaginable evolvements and developments of what we know. In science, the reasons for that have been conceptualized in terms of variation sources as a combination of chance fluctuation and chaos dynamic. But the truly uncomputable surprises in evolution reside in qualitative change, the appearance of radical novelties. As the sleight of hand goes, the fact that the artist choose a coin as the target object of this heist points to an interest in the nature of money and as a social construct and medium of exchange that is based on a leap of faith. And here he's playing with the words. This fetishist character of money as a form is closely related with the experience of the momentary suspension of this belief, a literary expression that is the basis of magic, right? And also, I read many reviews about this show, and someone pointed out that an underlining irony is that no alarm was triggered when he switched the coins. If we think about endless as in manifold, there are at least three dictionary definitions that are interesting, but I think I will jump to the third one. That comes from Kantian philosophy, the sum of particulars furnished by sense before they have been unified by the synthesis of understanding. So this kind of relation, causal relation, has been phrased in many ways during the week. And I believe it's a constitutive characteristic of the morphogenic, metamorphic beings I'm calling living. So levels of organization in living forms are cumulative, additive. In the evolution of species, as much as in the development of individual embryos, new forms are arriving by putting together previously existing ones. In line with the bedrock of cell theory tenets. All cells come from cells. All living things are made of cells. Cells are the minimal structural and functional unities of life as we know it. And then this makes me recollect an affirmation someone made in the first day that we have to be careful with commonsensical use of words because words do exist in a variety of ecological landscapes. So yeah, things don't stop existing in the previous level. No. Okay. The unfinished is important because it has to do with complexity and including errors. Yeah. So when he did the thing in the museum, the first time it didn't go through because the man said, "Show me your two hands." So he had to do it again. But then this is part of the exhibition, a little bit like drafting and exploration, right? Poetic. And also, as complexity goes and unpredictable things happen, did he rob the British Museum? So this is now a discussion. Okay, I don't have the time for complexity, but let's finish with a statement that Sarkozy, made when asked about his interest in brand technology performance in traditional. He says, I use all the things as but I repudiate the binomials of art and technology, art and politics. Art practice not necessarily have to follow this path. And you can find interesting things in the gray zones. There is no recipe for building your body of work. Sometimes you will be doing things that you are still not sure how they relate directly. But again, you don't need to understand everything while you are making. And I think this kind of very comprehensive action, creating this kind of being that are stable yet precarious, us art pieces, blur the divide between physis and technique and the thing that has been floating around the autonomy of living organisms as natural growth versus the heteronomy of art pieces and facts as artificial fabrication. And I end with one of my autopoietic poems. I didn't have the time to talk about stasis and poiesis, which was the main thing. I'm sorry, I miscalculated. But anyway, and thank you.
Questions? Yeah. I guess I want to start by saying thank you for coming up. Great help. Very good with a lot of it. And as they say, when you dance with the cricket, now there was something, so much of what you showed was interesting. We didn't really have a lot of time to, but I was especially interested in the poem. So that's the question, more of a request. Go back to that poem and maybe read a section of it?
Pour Valérie, poem.
Maybe.
It's my translation. I don't know if it lives up to. You want to read?
Declares by the void that there is nothing as beautiful as that which does not exist. On the magic mirror of its white space, the soul sees before her the place of the miracles that we would bring to life with signs and lines. This presence of absence overexcites and at the same time paralyzes the definitive act of the pen. There is in all beauty a forbidden touch, from which emanates I don't know what of sacred that stops the movement, puts the man on the point of acting.
To him, right? Thank you. I always like the silence that reading poems in a extended audience generates.
Then it goes on into the second verse. So that's different.
Of course, but I think the mechanism that constitutes precarious, stabilized meaning of a given word is similar to what happens with science in general. You have two heterogeneous sets that somehow find a mediation with each other, and some, but what you have are things that are, but even though find connections to other